Here we go.
Yeah. Let's all spread love, not hatred. Have faith, have patience. We all have problems of our own, but it's up to us not to take it out on everybody else. Whatever I can do, I'll help. Appreciate what you do have, 'cause I done been through it myself. Now I remember how it felt. I used to think life wasn't fair, but it is.
But it is.
You gotta be a voice for the kids. Look, baby, you are black and beautiful, so never be ashamed of your skin. Yours don't crack when we older. Love your culture. The media's all vultures, trying to steal what we got.
Man, I'm telling you, it is time to. I like how that kicks off, James. It's spread love, not hate.
You got it.
Spread love, not hate.
Yep.
But I mean, it's easy to get caught up in all of the divisiveness today.
It's hard, and there's a lot of triggers. There's a lack of leadership on the love side. Let me tell you that.
I remember. Gil Scott-Heron. He was talking about war, and the reason there's more war than love. He said there's no profit in love. Said there's more profit in war. Like, that they have the war economies and all of that, and it's just like, you start a war, it generates economies.
I've got a book for you called Killer High, and it is it's the interaction between drugs and war.
Killer High.
Wars fought for drugs. Wars drugs used during war to stimulate the troops, literally keep them awake, keep them hungry to fight, etc.
A lot of veterans came back with addictions. Heroin.
You got it. I mean, and it goes back to the opium wars in China, the British colonialism in China, and they were willing to fight a war to make sure they could keep an addicted population. So,
but once you get folks addicted, it's real interesting to hear that, because there have been we've had our own war on drugs, or so-called war on drugs, which was really a war on black, brown, and poor. Came up with mandatory minimums, and I don't know. Is there a way out? Is there a way out of this? Is James Mejia? Is there a way out? A different way?
Well, you started with love.
Yeah.
So there's in this movie Coming Clean, which is about the opiate crisis, happens to be in the film festival. They define the opposite of addiction being connection, and so if there is connection and if you provide connection, they say that's the way to combat addiction. And
that's powerful. The opposite of addiction is connection.
That's right. And I found that pretty compelling.
I like that. I like to sit with that. The opposite of addiction is connection. But if you look out through time, there's always been a concentrated effort to keep the masses under some kind of influence of some kind of stimulant.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, man.
Religion as the opiate of the masses, or opium itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Free thinkers out there, let me hit you with the trigger alert, because some of you may be triggered already. This is a show that triggers people because you've entered a free think zone. If you're not willing to be exposed to other points of view, tune out now and don't read the comments. You have been warned. James Mejia is in the building, and man, you're over a whole film, like film theater. It's the Sci Film Center. What are you up to these days?
Working with our team at Denver Film.
Okay.
And you would know us best by three things. Number one is Film on the Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So we combine a concert with a local band.
Okay.
And then a movie. And that happens during the summers.
Okay.
This year we couldn't use the amphitheater, so we reinvented and had in one of the lower lots a screen out there. And we actually had 32 drive-ins this summer. Incredible way to see excellent movies.
Okay.
At Red Rocks in the majestic setting of Red Rocks Park, and then and in the safety of your own vehicle. So that was part of that, and then also. We run the C Film Center, which is on Colfax, right across the street from East High School.
Uh-huh.
and then finally the film festival, which happens to be going on right now through November 8th. And one of the reasons I reached out to you, Jeff, was I saw a movie that stopped me in my tracks.
Man, and you shared it with me, and I'm still stopped.
Yeah, I'd like to think I pay attention to public policy. I'd like to think I pay attention to public interaction, to social paradigms, and this one really caught me off guard. I've got to say, and it's a movie called Coded Bias that I think everyone should see it. But if you are a person of color, if you are a woman, you need to know that math and algorithms are affecting your life in ways that you don't see. Guaranteed you don't see it.
Now, isn't okay? And we're going to get into this. We're wearing the masks again today. We're really safe, but now we're doubly safe because, like, I've got the press release, and the mayor just did a press conference about we're moving back to level 3 restrictions with COVID. Like I know we talked about how COVID impacted your industry. It's shuttering it's just shuttering the economy locally, nationally, and perhaps globally.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm pretty sure many businesses in your community that have just closed down. The little guys and gals are gonna get hit first and hardest. So we just keep hearing about businesses that are closing due to COVID. And before we get into the movie, it seems like there's a double standard. You've got the president test positive for COVID, and he's back on the campaign trail 2 days later, obviously has some access to treatments that the average individual does not. And then we hear the vice president's inner circles just tested positive. They do no quarantining, but then you get here, and like they're saying that these numbers are going up, and everybody's going back in, and people's livelihoods are just going to be decimated. What are your thoughts?
Well, it would be helpful, and I just got off the phone with someone in the mayor's office. It would be helpful to have a federal partner in fighting this. I mean, the impact of not only having the symbolism of the federal government doing their part and being an example of what you should do: A, wearing a mask; B, quarantining when your own Center for Disease Control says you need to be quarantined, you actually follow the advice of science. So number one is the symbolism of that, the leadership in that. But number two are the policies. It'd be nice to have a federal policy, not a pick and choose. And as you drive around and cross a county, it's a whole different scenario. It would be nice to have some federal leadership that says, these things are important. These things are what we're going to do based on science. We've got to get more science infused into our leadership.
Now, you follow these things, James. You're a policy guy. You look at this stuff. How's our state doing? Like, from a Colorado perspective and COVID, I don't know. I assume we're doing great. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any axe to grind. I mean,
yeah.
As it relates to covering and washing hands and cutting back and being putting public health in front of profit and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think we're doing the right thing, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think we are. I think we are both as a city and a state, frankly. I mean, there's some things I would change. I never would have shut down tennis courts. I never would have shut down golf courses. I mean, those are socially distant activities. People have to have their mental health along with their physical health, and those are a couple of socially distant ways to do that. But that's kind of marginal things. I think our overall leadership has been very good on those fronts. We're pretty social creatures, and
I think our city and our state has been the type that's just been like. I mean, there have been some examples of resistance and some court cases, and Bandamere comes to mind. There was a restaurant out in Castle Rock, and some others that were like, no, we're not going for that. But by and large, if Colorado's doing our part.
I think so. I think we are. I think people are listening. I think people are holding to their little pod, cutting down on trips outside the home, and frankly, I think that's why we've been able to hold it in check. Now, their cases are going up, and we've got to recognize that and remind ourselves that those things are still important. But I think the state has done well.
How's it become partisan? Like, there are certain states it's like no, and if you look at the president, he's certainly on the side of those who are, laughing at us right now for having on these masks. We're real silly right about now.
Well, I think it's revenue driven. I think it's about the dollars. And while I agree that the economy has to continue during this time, we also need to be careful. We need to be innovative about it. Seeing streets closed and opening up to restaurants outside, I think is a really good thing. Mm-hmm. I hope that doesn't stop during cold weather. I hope Coloradans put on another layer of clothing and get outside and support local restaurants, for example. That kind of thing.
I think that we're in a world right now, James, that whatever it was prior to COVID, most of that's gone away.
Yeah.
And then when you think about where we're at right now, those who are being most creative are being able to adapt and will move forward. Like I've seen different faith-based institutions, they've held services not only virtually but also in their parking lots with their congregants in their cars.
That's right.
The Denver Film Festival, all the stuff that you all are doing, you couldn't get in Red Rocks, but you said bring the cars.
Yep.
People are figuring it out, and you're going to have to figure it out.
Well, and the adjustments that are being made now are adjustments that I think are going to be around for a while. There are going to be people who are uncomfortable leaving their homes and for health reasons shouldn't leave their homes, who deserve services as well. And so things like drive-ins where you can stay in your own vehicle and still be safe, and a virtual platform for viewing film, like that's going to be with us. That's not going to go away. So
you had an opportunity, like you shared with me one of the films that we're going to talk more about, Coded Bias. You shared the link with me.
Yes.
And I was able to look at, the sponsors were able to still get their message out.
That's right.
I saw who the sponsors were in terms of the film festival. I like how you had the slates that came across and you still honored, that visibility. And then you put in some different commercials, for others. And then you were able to go right into a film, which I thoroughly enjoyed, that we'll get into. And then it went into a talk back with Betty Hart, and she's incredible. I mean, what can you say about Betty Hart?
I met Betty for the first time, and I had no idea how good she was. I didn't know her before she did that Q&A, and when I saw that, I was like, whoa, we need to spend some time. I need to understand everything she's involved in, and I got to tell you that has been a good process for me in my own learning experience to see those who make art through film in our own community, because part of our charge is to boost them up too. And,
well, she's an actress, she's a writer, producer. Right when COVID hit, she had just finished staging this play. It was the Scottsboro Boys. That whole Scottsboro trial and all of that. And I'm fortunate that I was able to see it, and then COVID happened and everybody wasn't able to see it. But there's a lot of things that are being missed in the arts right now.
Oh, I hope with a relief package, part of that is the Save Our Stages movement.
Yeah, I've seen some of that in our venues.
Yes, that's exactly right. And because we can't open like we would like to the public, we still want to exist after this. I mean, in a large part, as you know, art feeds the soul, and people choose different forms of art to feed their own soul, and I think it's an incredibly important part of the Denver cultural fabric, and it'd be helpful to have a little bit of relief. I hope that our federal government can pull it together and not only do a relief package for our small businesses, but our arts and culture venues as well.
All right, Joe, we've got James Mejia in the building. Gerald, you can go ahead and hit that. Cut the heat. James he's got on his top coat.
Oh, I feel good. Yeah.
He's got on his top coat. Always looking dapper as all. There are several things I want to talk to you about, and how important is this election like turning in that ballot and me looking around the country, looking at all those folks in line, waiting 8, 9, and 10 hours to cast a vote. And here in Colorado, I'm just sitting on my ballot, and I've got all the time in the world to go through everything meticulously, and then I could drop it off anywhere. I almost feel spoiled.
Well, a couple things. Number one, we have an outstanding mail-in ballot system here in Colorado. We're very lucky. When I lived abroad for a couple of years, I had no problem voting every single time from abroad because it was a mail-in. No problem. I think the importance of this election is as important as our democracy is. So if you consider the Democratic Republic of this United States to be an important thing and the foundations to be important, you need to be heard through your vote. And I'm a same day voter guy. I get my ballot and it is out of my hands that day.
But you're the policy guy. You see it coming.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm already know it's going to be on there.
I'm ready, and frankly, I relish the opportunity to hand walk my ballot in and put it in the box day one. So I've been in for a couple of weeks, and I'm
working on mine. I finally made it through all my state amendments or the kind of referendums and propositions, except for 3. I want to ask you about them.
Okay.
One is just not really important to me, but I think it's important to some other individuals, and that's the gamblers. Like, should the stakes be raised to allow them to bet as much as they want up there in the hills, Black Hawk and Cripple Creek or wherever they go? I'm like, if you want to vote as much, if you want to bet as much as you want, I don't want to stop you.
Yes. However, when I look at those issues, I always look at which population will this most affect.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like if we know there is a population that is going to be the gambling population, do we actually want to push them towards that destiny or not? I mean, so that's one consideration.
Uh-huh.
And the other consideration is, where's the money going? What and that's the trade-off.
Well, they always say they're going to give it to the parks or they're going to give it to the schools, or now they're starting to slip it into mental health. So they say all those different things. I'm not sure if it always reaches where they say, but at the end of the day, I just don't like. Yeah, I get it. Like, okay, will this prevent you from taking 3 or 4 trips back up to the mountains?
Right.
Just go ahead and drop it all off at once, or you're never going to beat the house.
Well, that's why they exist, right?
If it wasn't profitable for them, they would not exist.
Yeah, that's why they're there. So
that might be an undervote for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you do undervotes?
No, I mean, no.
Everybody's getting something.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Now,
I look at all of them.
Here's one that I really don't Here's one I don't really have under my belt, and this is the popular vote versus the Electoral College.
Oh, I just had this conversation.
What do you think?
I just had this conversation.
I'm of the opinion that if people are doing it because Trump beat Hillary via the Electoral College, but that hasn't happened except a few times in the course of the whole country, then if we're reacting to Donald J. Trump, why don't we just vote him out and get on with the business?
Yes.
But then my other side is, if we only have 9 electoral votes here in Colorado, why would someone stop here if we give up our little electoral votes, and why wouldn't they just fly over us and go to California?
I personally think that this is the toughest issue on the ballot.
It is tough for me.
And because the country was set up to hear the minority voice, to not be overpowered by the majority, right? Now, in theory, that's how it was set up. Uh-huh. The Electoral College, 2 senators per state, the minority right,
yes,
was designed to be heard. Didn't want a tyranny of the majority, right?
Okay.
So, However,
But, comma,
exactly, there is a shift in demographics to urban areas, and you could also make the argument that someone living in an urban area, their voice is really not heard just because they live in a city. So the one person, one vote property is not being realized now. So because you live in an urban area, and that's going to go with the Democrats, your vote is not as important, your voice is not as loud, your voice is certainly not even as someone living in a less dense area, a more sparsely populated situation.
But
So
wouldn't it make it easier for me just as a candidate? Like, okay, if I want to go and win the presidency, I'm going to hit California, I'm going to hit Florida, I'll hit Michigan. Let me get over here to Ohio, maybe some of these big places. And if I get 4 out of 5 of the big ones, I won't have to spend all my money traveling to all these 50 states.
yes, that's the danger. I mean, that's the risk.
I don't get it.
That is the risk.
I'm really torn between this one.
I think that's the hardest one, and that's why they say flyover states. You fly over them because they're too small, they don't have enough electoral votes, and they're not in contention.
See, I already know how it feels. Like, say for example, James, I've been raised in Colorado. The population has always been around 3% black folks statewide. But growing up, I was in a concentrated black community, which you know how it was. You know, we were redlined. We were all condensed in a particular area. So I know what it's like to be a part of a black community, but being from a so-called white state and knowing how black folks nationally, national leaders, etc., they don't believe that black folks are in Colorado. So you can't tell me the last time a national black leader has been in Colorado. Can't. They don't come. They're not going to be here. And if they do, it's for a luncheon to get your little money and head back to New York or to California or to wherever they're at. I have not seen a national black leader here to even think about our concerns like an Elijah McClain or anything. They don't come because the numbers are not here. And I feel the same way is going to happen if you give up your little 9 electoral votes.
I think that's a fair argument.
But I don't know.
I think that's fair. No, I mean that's the minority voice, and in this case we're talking about an ethnic population, but it is the minority voice that is not being heard.
No, and so when you think about it, these politics are very, very important. Wherever you're at, I think that you should cast your vote. And it's not just for the presidency. There's a whole bunch of stuff on things on these ballots that you could pay attention to. And James, to the point, just when I thought it was safe to get back in the water, I got my mask back on.
Right.
And I'm looking at all of the Black Lives Matter movements, the social unrest. I'm seeing schools doing things, like, for example, Cornell University eliminated their English literature department and changed it to a literature in English department. Massive changes. And then James Mejia sends me a link just when we thought math was not biased.
Math is the truth, right?
I'm like, James, one thing we can count on is 1 + 1 is 2. And now I'm seeing 1 + 1 equals wealthy white men.
This movie surprised me. This movie hit me square between the eyes of what was happening that I was not seeing. And in essence, this movie is called Coded Bias. It's in the film festival this year, and I hope every Denverite watches this movie or at some point. This is math being used to develop algorithms, and algorithms used to decide who is prioritized for healthcare, how much credit you get and who gets the credit, how you're sentenced in the criminal justice system, whether or not your resume even reaches the level of granting you an interview. I won't give away too much about the movie itself, but at one point, the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, applied for credit, as did his wife. Now, keep in mind that they have no separate assets.
Right.
100% of their assets are combined and together assets as a married couple. He received, because of an algorithm, right, a math system, 10 times more credit than his wife did.
Based on an algorithm.
Based on an algorithm.
That's getting the same exact result of wealthy white men, or white men in general, or just the systemic hierarchy that exists right now. These algorithms are producing the exact same thing. Should we show them the trailer?
Let's do it.
Why don't we show them a little bit of the trailer?
Let's do it.
And then we'll come back. Let's see what this is about. Let's see.
During my first semester at MIT, I got computer vision software that was supposed to track my face. It didn't work until I put on this white mask. I'm thinking, all right, what's going on here? Is it the lighting conditions? Is it the angle at which I'm looking at the camera? Or is there something more? That's when I started looking into issues of bias that can creep into technology.
Our ideas about technology that we think are normal are actually ideas that come from a very small and homogeneous group of people.
Vast amounts of data at incredible speeds.
Everybody has unconscious biases, and people embed their own biases into technology.
This kid got stopped as a result of facial recognition misidentification, and then used that as justification to search you. This is an innocent child.
Racism is becoming mechanized.
Systemic issues are only going to be hardwired into new technologies.
It's not just face classification, it's any data-centric technology.
Every day, we are all being scored.
Who gets hired? Who gets housing?
I am making predictions for your life right now.
The people who own the code deploy it on other people, and there is no accountability.
Management at Atlantic Towers wanted to install the facial recognition software.
Pretty much turn this place into Fort Knox.
The technology is being rapidly adopted, and there are no safeguards.
We are socially controlled in a way that we don't see.
Technology that analyzes faces could be biased, but the company is pushing it anyway.
What demographic is it most effective on?
White men.
Show me that it's going to be fair, that it's legal, before you put it out. That's what we don't have yet.
It's going to take people coming together, striving for justice in this age of automation.
Oh man.
So
see, you had to show me that. I thought, just when I thought it was safe to get back in the water, here comes the coded bias.
Well, I mean, to me, this is even worse than stop and frisk, because you don't even see it. You don't even see him walking up to you. It's just a camera, and you don't even know that you're being profiled. Until the next step is taken, and you don't know why, you don't know how you're identified. But if a camera is to recognize you facially and find you as a threat, you're being profiled.
And then what happens when, and it has happened, that this technology, which you're going to see is unregulated in the U.S. largely, or it's becoming more regulated, I'm not sure, but the example of this technology has been used against our communities once again by giving the technology to law enforcement and letting them figure out how to deal with it before you get it up the food chain.
The London system that uses facial recognition said that there was 98% of false positives for people being identified as a threat. 98%. I mean, that's not only just a little bad, that's almost always bad. It's almost always a bad system, and yet it's being used.
But I mean, even with the example, and shout out, we were talking before we went on the air, James, about how powerful this new generation of leaders and activists and folks are. You know what I mean? Not saying that those before them were less powerful, but the power in this particular moment, and to see this young sister from MIT, you know what I mean, could have easily disappeared in the upper echelons of an industry that, you know, pays well, allows individuals to, you know, engage in the technology, and that whole cohort of leaders, they're sounding the alarm.
Yeah, well, I mean that underscores another issue. So the woman is Joy Bulamini, and she is a research scientist out of MIT who has taken this case all the way to Congress, and it begs the question: what if she wasn't there, and what if she wasn't capable in the area of STEM and science and technology to ask the questions? Because no one asked a question before she got there.
People have to see this film. How can they see it? I saw it and I'm like, whoa. You know, I mean, I've seen some of the news, you know, when they showed that some of this media or these algorithms were being used, and they put in black faces of like Congressman John Lewis and others, and the algorithm sends back criminal.
Yeah.
Black and brown folks come back, and when they hit the system, it comes back criminal.
Yeah.
You know, the algorithms that are used in the courts that determine if you're are higher risk or lower risk, you know, to be into society, etc., is sending black and brown bodies to jail and violating them, while whites are being able to be viewed as a less risk. The same thing that the society has produced through people, the technology that was largely driven by white men is producing the same system through the math and science as it did through the individual.
Well, not largely produced by white men, exclusively produced by white men, at least to a point. And now we are seeing some other people come into it, but the origination of this was exclusively white men. It was a math department at Dartmouth, you know, and that was, I think,
all white men,
a dozen white men that founded this technology.
You know, it's got to be so deep. I mean, James Mejia, by the way, with the Denver Film Festival, they do the Film on Rocks, they do the Sci-Film Center on Colfax, and right now there is the Denver Film Festival.
That's right.
It's taking place right now, and I was able to watch this film in a safe environment at home via my own technology. And you could just purchase the film and get it delivered to your smartphone or phone or to your, you know, your smart TV or whatever. It's the technology makes it possible.
It does, but, and I never answered your question directly. Let's do this. I think this movie is so important that let's give like the first 25 people that respond to you a virtual pass to see this movie. As long as they promise to talk about it. They've got to tell somebody else about what's going on and to share this issue. And if they do that, let's make it possible for people to see this movie. We'll send them a virtual pass.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, free thinkers out there, if you saw that trailer, you're hearing this conversation, and you want to see this film, free thinkers, we're going to make it possible for the first 25 of you to see it. Go ahead and just raise your hand or something in the links, and we'll
name and email, and we'll take care of you.
Exactly. Just inbox me your name and email or something. We'll figure it out, but we're going to give away 25 passes for individuals to see this particular film. James Mejia, how is it possible for the founding fathers, which are exactly the same as the founding fathers of this technology, or at least how it's used, to produce an incredibly biased system that always protects them at the expense of everyone else? And even when you have something that's supposed to be as neutral as math And you know, of course, an algorithm is going to probably give you the results that the questions you put in are going to probably give the results that come out.
There you go.
I get that part.
There you go.
But the math algorithm, you know, folks are using this technology for another wave of advancement at the expense of future generations.
Well, you know, a scientist would say garbage in, garbage out, right? And you a computer will only produce or learn from the basis that you have taught that computer. So what you put in, and if you to start, if it's white men, then it's almost guaranteed the personal bias guarantees that white men are recognized by facial recognition accurately, for example. But then everyone else is at a disadvantage. So just being at the table or the room where it happens, right? We have to be, people of color and women have to be at every table, in every room, to even be able to ask the questions.
Well, I'll tell you this. There are folks that saying that they'd love to see it. The first 25, don't worry. I've got your information. Just put that you want to see it and you'll share it and we'll get it to you. I'll see if you inbox me your email or address, etc. We'll get it to you so you don't have to put your email in the thread for public consumption. I see you, Dr. Lisa Calderon, and Little T, Tawana, Sandy, Robnet. Sandy, it was great seeing you at the Be Woke Vote event. Sean McWilliams, I see all of your names. We're going to make sure we get you this link so that you can see it. And all you have to do is share and, I mean, just talk about it. And once you watch it, you're going to talk about it. I mean, the young sister who, like, her whole premise was she had a dream. Here's the part that got me. She had a dream of going to MIT when she was 7 years old. And why? Because she had access. Someone took her somewhere where she saw something and she knew she wanted to go to MIT.
A little robot.
She saw a little robot and said, I want to go to MIT.
Yeah.
7 years old.
Yeah.
And here she is now at MIT.
Pretty much changing the world.
And traveling the world young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on what she noticed. And the big tech companies could not dismiss her. And she was saying, as a black woman, it's built into people's assumptions that I'm not qualified to have the experience and the credibility to discover what I've discovered.
Well, and now she has the credibility to go into IBM and say, guess what I noticed about your algorithm?
Yeah.
And she actually compelled them to correct it, or at least partially correct it. And these are not fly-by-night small companies that she's affecting. We're talking Google and Facebook and Amazon and IBM.
You should get her. Let's get her in the Free Think Zone.
We'll
figure it out.
She started something called the Algorithmic Justice League, and there's a little shield, and I want to get her permission to like reproduce that. The graphic is compelling and something people need to talk about. It's a hidden, I think, a largely hidden technology that affects everyday life. It affects. This was a simple one that maybe people can get. If you go online, it changes the price of toilet paper that you pay compared to somebody else.
It's expensive to be poor.
You're like,
oh,
that doesn't affect me. Yes, it does. It affects the price of your toilet paper, all the way up to what you get in a home loan. I mean, it's profound. It is.
Let's not give this away, but let's talk of like when you again, if you want to see this film, it's called Coded Bias. It's a part of the Denver Film Festival. Those of you who are watching right now as a part of the Free Think Zone, the first 25, we're going to go ahead and get you a free pass to watch it from the comfort of your own home. I didn't have to leave.
That's right.
I didn't have to go and then, with COVID and all of those different things, and we're into masks again, even though we've always had the restrictions. It looks like we're at a different level again. This James Mejia, who is now the executive director of the whole thing, is going to make sure that you get loaded into the system and you can watch it, and all you have to do is share the information about what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Jeff, it brings up the fact that this is a medium that's very powerful. The medium of film, and it's something that needs to be shared with the community. This is part of our Women Plus film series, by women, for women, about women. Joy Bulamini being the protagonist, but the director was Shalini, Kantaya.
Yeah.
Another woman of color.
And I had a chance to hear her and Betty Hart have a conversation after the film. There was the trailer. It was like a special edition that came up.
Right.
And the conversation between Betty Hart, our very own Betty Hart, and the film's director and producer, even that conversation was powerful.
And I'm glad you give a shout out to Betty Hart. I mean, we want to see community people come in, and when there's a connection of, conduct a Q&A, and Betty does an incredible job. I hope she partners with us well into the future. But
we won't give this away, but what about what China's doing with their technology?
Well,
don't even say what it is. If you watch the film, you'll be like, oh, man. Oh, man.
I think there was a statement saying the difference between the U.S. and China is that at least the Chinese tell you what they're doing.
Yeah, the Chinese are going to hit you right in the face. They're like...
That was...
It's like the word is striking.
Indeed.
James Mejia, when you came in, you looked right at the bottle, and what did you say?
Oh, I said, Manushka Sainville's been here with her chubby curls. my friend Manushka. Yeah, no, and I said, I can't wait. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I can't wait till she goes full time on her entrepreneurial.
She's if there's a film program, it's going to be called The Next Big Thing. It's Manushka and chubby curls.
Yeah,
that is huge. Educating the natural community one scalp at a time. If you've got those little skinny curls, make them chubby. I'm telling you, James, when he walked in, he's like, Manushka's been here. He's like, chubby curls is everything.
She's a hard worker, and she's been circulating, so she deserves attention. She deserves, she deserves folks to support her for sure.
Talk about the power of film in this particular social climate and how it can be used to bring folks together to have critical conversations that they couldn't necessarily have, without the medium of art. And I know I set it up as an answer to a question.
No,
but can you build on that.
I mean, that's it. I mean, the powerful and magic of film. The power and magic of film is a medium that's incredibly accessible. You can, from watching on your phone to your living room to your tablet, on the go, in mass transit, etc. People are watching. Number one, it helps people stay in tune with what's going on. It provokes conversation, and I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that the medium is used by the community, that the stories from the community are getting out and discussed. I want to help make the next generation of filmmakers. I want to make sure that we're growing our own right here at home with regard to making film, editing film, learning how to use a technology, and if nothing else, appreciating the medium for what it can do. Can educate, it can inspire, and as you mentioned, this is a catalyst for a conversation.
Wow.
I mean, we're having one tonight with Keo Frazier.
Okay.
And Keo is bringing her New Thinkers group. They have all watched a screening of I Am Greta, and that's the documentary about Greta Thunberg and climate change. And in collaboration with the Trust for Public Land, we're talking about why climate change needs to be a topic in this election cycle, and how you move on through your vote and with your voice on climate change, and so that's the kind of thing that we want to make sure Denver Film is serving that purpose, that bringing a community conversation with film as a medium and as a pillar catalyst for that conversation.
The movie is coded bias, and everybody in there, I see your names, your emails, your links. We're going to make sure that we get you access to see the film. As a matter of fact, and after you see it, we'll set up a Zoom call. A community Zoom call, because we got to talk about this.
There's a lot to talk about, and I would really be interested in the different take, like what hits people the most. And again, in my own case, I'd like to think I stay up on public policy, and this one just caught me off guard.
How about if we get me, you, and Betty Hart?
I would love that. I would love that.
We set up a Zoom call.
I would love that.
And we'll talk about the movie.
Betty
will do it.
I would love to do that.
Okay, everybody, we're going to send you all the link. And again, after the show today, we'll get that link to you all so that you're able to just watch this incredible film. I couldn't help thinking about. I couldn't help stop thinking about this election season and all that we keep hearing about who's tampering with the election. Who's tampering with the election? And I'm saying we're tampering with the election. We have the tech. I wouldn't say we, not me and you.
Right.
But there is a piece that shows by just doing this, and we won't tell you what the this is, it influenced an incredible movement in terms of the electorate just by doing this.
One social media message swayed hundreds of thousands, and it's astounding. The power that's held in math, algorithm, social media, etc.
Well, I could tell you if you've inboxed me, and I also see your emails right here. We're gonna get, like they say, in when I was in that whole call that healthcare industry, stat means we'll get it to you right now. We'll get it to you. A powerful movie. Again, it's called Coded Bias, and just when you thought it was safe to get in the water and you thought that, the social justice movement and all that stuff and all the great stuff that is happening, the things that we hold dear to us right now, like the smartphones that we have in our pockets,
yep,
the algorithms and the things that it's doing as it relates to who we are and who we aren't, it just goes right back to everything we're fighting right now.
That's right. I mean, it underscores that we need to be everywhere and educating ourselves well enough to ask the right questions.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you all, here's what we're going to do right now. Go to brotherjeff.com, make a donation of any amount. We call it an investment. We are powered by the people, brotherjeff.com. And, of course, we're encouraging everybody to vote, not necessarily who to vote for. Just exercise your right and what to vote for. Exercise your right. We see, Emily, we see you raising your hand. We're going to get you that link. You're going to enjoy this. I just particularly love seeing those women getting at it.
Well, again, I mean, this
They're
is
fighting.
Yeah, I mean, this is a women plus film feature because women made this movie. The protagonist is a woman.
Her friends are women.
All her friends and all the scientists are women. The woman who wrote the math book. This is a powerful movement powered by women, and it's number one. We should be very grateful that they were actually paying attention and at the helm and smart enough to get this thing done. I'll tell you the thing that impresses me most about Joy is that not only does she know the science, but she knows it well enough, and she has enough emotional intelligence to be able to talk about it in really simple ways, in ways that the common person can understand. That's tough to be that deep into the science and then to be able to explain it, to regular folks is astounding. So,
you think Donald J. Trump's going to take that big L, or is there going to be 4 more years of Trump? What are your thoughts?
Oh no! So of 8 swing states that Trump won 4 years ago, Biden is ahead in 6 of them. One's a toss-up, and that's Georgia, and Trump is still ahead in Ohio. But there are 6 of 8 swing states where Biden's ahead. Now, I know you're going to say, well, the polls are terrible for Clinton too.
I was about to say, I trusted those polls last time.
The polls are terrible. I think they've gotten marginally better, a tiny bit better. But even if they haven't, there's one big difference. The number of early votes is historic. The number of people who have already gone out and voted, it's historic.
And they're still waiting for my ballot. It's coming, everybody. My ballot's coming. I'm working my way through it. Actually, what I've done is I've got my state stuff done. I can't figure out what to do with this electoral popular vote kind of thing. And then my Denver issues, I'm just going to vote whatever Candice Tabaka told me to do. I'm not, listen, free thinkers out here. I'm not recommending that you do this, or I am recommending that you do this. It's so thick, and I'm into the issues and all that. And I've just said, Candice Tabaka, send me your cheat sheet. She sent it over to me, and when I get home, I'm gonna be like, Candice Tabaka, boom, boom, boom. And did you see what Candice Tabaka and Dr. Lisa Calderon and staff and team and community and other council members did last night?
I saw that, a late night vote.
I'm too excited.
You know, there's a lot of leadership going on there right now, and
they blocked, I think, $31 million worth of money, and that was just one contract from the Allied Security Company that beat Rivero Stinnett down at the Union Station, and RTD voted to give those people back a contract. And then when it came around to the city in this Denver Mile High Income City City Council, Candice Tabaka and committee and crew and community was like, we're not rewarding in the time of Black Lives Matter, social unrest. We're not rewarding a big company millions of dollars after beating one of our citizens, and the city just had to make a payoff, or I guess RTD or whoever. Rivero Stinnett just got a settlement, you know what I mean, on the same day that the Denver City Council said, and we're not giving you all that money.
Yeah.
Don't tell me one person can't make a difference.
Yeah.
And then drive others to say, let me look at that.
Accountability.
You know, another thing that I think that Candice Tabaka has done, and crew and Dr. Lisa Calderon, and there's a whole bunch of them, but those are the ones I'm next to. You know what I mean? Do you know anything about open space and easements?
I just had this conversation too. Is this about the small? It's a small houses movement.
Well, that's to save our open space, but there's the Park Hill Golf Course, and the city purchased an easement under Wellington Webb.
Yes.
That was held into perpetuity.
Yes.
That gave the citizens, and they say the city, but I believe that we are the city, unless there's something different that I'm missing, that says that we have rights in terms of what that development would look like. And they took the money, and now it looks like, you know, they're saying that Brother Jeff just only has a right to go to a golf course.
So
I don't know.
You know, I was a manager of Parks and Recreation under Wellington Webb.
Yes, sir.
I was very proud to have served in his administration, and in my opinion, we had the most talented team in city government. I still talk to my friend Abel Shaw, who was the deputy in charge of parks, lives in Las Vegas now, and we were reminiscing, and you know, we talked about the importance of Park Hill Golf Course as an open area, as one of the last open areas, not only in this region of the city, but in the city.
You talked about this during your administration,
under
your tenure.
Well, we always valued Park Hill Golf Course.
Okay,
but no, we developed other parts of the city, assuming, and this was probably a mistake on my part, and I think the mayor would say we should have dotted that I and crossed that T. We thought we did with the conservation easement. We thought we were pretty clear that it had to be a vote of the people to change the destiny of that piece of property. The other thing that we did not do was formally designate parkland that looked, acted, and everybody thought was parkland. We should have made that a more formal process for future generations.
I was talking to my wife, and you know, and she told me, she said, look, during the Wellington Webb administration, he valued parks and open space. That was a value.
We thought it was a shared value. We thought it went without statement, which again was probably a mistake. We thought it was so ingrained in the citizenry and residents of Denver that there are some things we assumed, and you know what they say about assumptions. So
now it's the fight. The fight's on.
I would say that was probably my biggest mistake as manager of Parks and Rec. Was not formally designating parkland, all of it. And I don't know what else we could have done on that easement. I really don't, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I'd call that a mistake because I still think it needs to be a vote of the people to change the destiny of that piece of property.
That's what I thought. I mean, I thought, and I'm listening to all sides, you know what I mean? And that's what you have to do, or that's what I do to try to come to a conclusion. And my number one question is, yes, it could be this or it could be that or whatever you all think about that particular piece of property, but don't I have a say in that as someone who's ponied up a couple $1 million? What do I get for my money? What's my return on my investment?
I think the city does. And the argument that I've heard is, well, if we do a development, there are other items that the neighborhood needs, like a grocery store. And my thought to that is, yeah, we need a grocery store, but we don't have to put it on open space. I mean, we could put a grocery store lots of places. I mean, let's show some leadership and put a grocery store in there, but let's find a different place for that.
Well, I can tell you've been on top of all these things, and it's always a pleasure to get to hang out and talk with you and kind of figure out, how these pieces are moving because, like I say, if you're not into politics, politics are deep into you. Politics is everywhere. Politics is everything. It's into you, bro.
Amen.
But again, a shout out to you in terms of the work that you're doing now in terms of film. How'd you get into it? Like, has film just been your thing, or like?
No. That's the thing. I'm not a film guy, right? Like I am trying to allow the creatives that are there to keep pursuing excellence in curation of films, and I just want to bring it to the people, and I want to put a business structure underneath their creativity and give them the tools to keep going, even bigger and even better. And I want to connect the community to Denver film. I want to connect the community to the ability to tell their own stories and see their own faces up on the big screen.
And they're going to see their own faces with coded bias.
Yeah.
I just thought that, you know what, the algorithms, I knew it was doing something, but I didn't know it was doing some of the things that I now know that it can do, which is impacting, my costs, my access, my everything, and everything that we've been fighting openly. We got to fight that's in our pocket.
You got it.
This thing right here.
You got it. Yeah. And one thing that the closing song says, "Who owns the code?"
Who owns the code?
Yep.
All right. Well, it's been great hanging out with you. Don't run, Ralph. I got something for you. I got something for you. Don't run. And Ralph, have you voted? See, they come in.
There you go.
James Mejia. Do they bring their ballots in
here? There you go. Voting is happening right now.
Tell them we don't sign your ballot, but we can certainly tell you I got a cheat sheet right here. I've been working.
Is that the longest ballot you've ever filled out?
And I haven't even filled it all out yet. It's pretty thick. There's some interesting things on that ballot, and it's particularly how they're asking for money, like mill levies, and you got to be up on your mill levies. You got to be up on your assessments. Be up on the interest rates paid on things back to 2018 through to 2018 plus 2020. You got to know a little bit about Gallagher. All
judges?
that is.
You got to know your judges.
You got to know your judges.
But by name, right? By name and reputation.
And isn't that part of being an active citizen?
I think it is. And if you don't know, you got to know the sources to go to have a conversation to make up your mind.
You know what my favorite one is that I thought was silly, but now it's my favorite?
What's that?
Reintroducing the gray wolves.
Where are you going on that? Are you about the wolves?
Yeah, they're indigenous.
Okay. Okay.
It said reintroduce the gray wolves and they're indigenous. I'm like, indigenous? Yeah. Indigenous.
Well, there you have it.
There's another silly one on this.
How about let's reintroduce the indigenous?
That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm saying if we're going to go after Gallagher and then get to Tabor, because the Gallagher is the low fruit, bring them wolves first. bring
the wolves. There you have it.
Can I tell you one that is just real silly to me? Amendment 76. Citizenship qualification of voters. I'm like, if that is not just an attack on immigrants, like
I opened my ballot and I could hear the dog whistle as soon as I tore it open. I could hear it.
You could hear it.
That one's terrible.
So, but with that being said, remember you got to get into these propositions and these candidates, and we've got a new Supreme Court Justice. RBG has been replaced. 1/3 of the Supreme Court has been confirmed under this presidency. Imagine that. Imagine that. 1/3 of the Supreme Court. Before we get out, stack the court. I'm like, if you can, you better. But that's me. I don't know the details, James. Stack it. Well, it's legal. It's constitutional. They said it was legal to push them little nominations through. Indeed. So if it's legal and constitutional to go ahead and, get a few extra books. It is difficult to think about where the brinksmanship ends. Where this in my opinion was the nuclear option. Going to confirm a Supreme Court justice this close to an election doesn't leave many other legalities as possibilities. Like if you can do it, now it's like do it. If you can do it to the other party, I mean the thought is do it. So I don't it's a tough I don't know where it ends. If you do that, we're going to do this. If you do that, we're going to do that. We're in pretty dangerous territory for the democracy. I'll say that. They blocked Obama. They took one from Obama. And they said it's too close to the election, and that was months away. It was a fumble. They hit poof. Nope, we're not going to hear that. Yeah. And that's why it's important to control the Senate. Well, I think confirmation of the justice is going to backfire on Trump's reelection campaign. Wow. And the reason for that is I think you've got independents that are saying this is a system that's set up by checks and balances. They can't have the Senate too. I mean, they've got the Supreme Court now. Can't have the Senate too. We're going blue. We're going to go Democrat with the Senate. So I actually think the chances of overturning the Senate now are stronger than they were before that confirmation. There you go, and I agree. All right, James Mejia, I appreciate your time, and I'm telling you, the film is called Coded Bias. And those of you who have put your name in there, if you've raised your hand, we're going to go in there and we're going to make sure that you get a link to that film. Smokey Girl, Darlene Jones says, James Mejia, my ex-boss. That's Smokey. Well, it's actually Smokey. She told me I've been saying Smokey. It's Smokey Girl, but that's Darlene Jones. You're her ex-boss. Hey, we had excellent teams all of the time. Not some of the time. All the time. All the time. All right, you all. Coded Bias is the film. Is there any other films like what can people expect with the Denver Film Festival? What's happening? Oh man, I mean, I mentioned Coming Clean about the opiate crisis. On Thursday we've got our last drive-in. It's called Ammonite up at Red Rocks. That's going to be good. There's some outstanding cinema on this. I mean, and a lot of Colorado filmmakers are featured. We've got shorts, documentaries, narratives that are in there. So there literally is something for everybody in this film festival. How do people get in touch? How do they get in touch with the film festival? Yeah, we're on denverfilm.org, and you'll see it's called DFF 43 Denver Film Festival
43rd year. So on that homepage, you'll be able to look at all the movies, see all the descriptions, all the trailers. Pretty exhaustive list and some outstanding cinema.
All right, you all, make sure you check them out. It's incredible. I wanted to, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but I can tell you the mayor of the Mile High Income City has just enacted, I don't know what code it is, level 3, level 4, level whatever level 3, it is, but things have been tightened up again because the COVID cases are going up, and there are some that say that COVID's not real, and I just don't know how you're going to these rallies. You don't, no mask. It's like you're thumbing your nose at, your health. And I think you're starting to see the impact of some of that. But that being said, taking the politics out of it, cover up, wash your hands, social distance. Cover up, wash your hands, social distance. Ralph's like, Ralph's like, But that being said, they say some of the masks is to protect me from you or you from me or whatever, but let's just protect each other. Isn't that?
There you go. There you go.
All right, you all. If you go down swinging. James Mejia in the building. We're going to have a conversation in the days coming of coded bias, and believe me, you're going to be surprised, and I can't wait to have a conversation to just see how surprised you are, because I just thought math was math.
Yeah, thought math was the truth, right?
It's like, Yeah. All right, you all. Go down swinging. Just my score knockout. Rumble, young man, women in community rumble. And don't forget, vote. Go to brotherjeff.com. Make a donation of any amount. We are powered by the people. And don't forget about Chubby Curls, educating the natural community one scalp at a time. You've got those little skinny curls. Make them chubby. chubbycurls.com. James Mejia. Thank you, bro. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
There he is in the building.